Hi, I'm the Malt activist and welcome to another whiskey review. And today I have with me quite possibly one of the most legendary whiskeys ever produced, Highland Park 18. Early on in my career as a whiskey enthusiast, this was the one that kind of did it for me. I remember drinking this long time ago and thinking, my God, what is going on? So I have here with me, as you can see, two different editions of the Highland Park 18. One on my right is the older version, an older recipe, if you like. And on my left here, the new edition, part of the whole Viking rebranding, if you like, called Viking Pride, with a somewhat of a different recipe. Now, I'm not going to do a head-to-head. I would have loved to do that, but this is my only bottle of the old Highland Park 18, and I want to hold on to it for a while. I haven't figured out when I want to open it yet. So, with this 18-year-old, when I first got this a couple of years ago, my initial reaction was, they screwed it up, right? Wasn't happy with it. I remember I had my first dram, didn't think too much about it, and then I kept going back to it, and that's when I really started to appreciate it a bit more. And I think over a period of time, I'm happy to consider this a very accomplished and decent whiskey. Made from ex-sherry casks, both American and European, with Oloroso sherry. This was introduced in 1997, if I'm not mistaken. Do fact check me if I am wrong, but I think that's the correct time. So it was introduced in 1997 and has been a staple in the core lineup of Highland Park. Very mildly peated. I was having a chat with I want to get this name right. Sorry. Yes, I was having a chat with their global brand ambassador, Mark Varston. I hope I haven't butchered that. Delightful gentleman who loves his whiskey, loves his Viking heritage. Big guy, very well built, ex-boxer, lots of tattoos. Super nice guy, very entertaining to speak to. And we were having a chat with him about whether or not the recipe for the 18 had changed when the new packaging was introduced, which is this particular new packaging. And the answer I got was whiskeys that went in the old edition of the Highland Park 18 were rumored to be anywhere as old as 30 years going into the 18-year-old. Hence that particular deliciousness, if you like, and hence the reason I guess I fell in love with this Highland Park 18. And so there was a lot of old spirit that went into maintaining the quality and consistency of the 18-year-old. And like he said, whiskeys, as old as 30-year-old went into making that. Whereas this particular 18-year-old does have older whiskeys, but maybe not that much older, has more 19s and 20s, if you like. In fact, even the Highland Park 12, the older versions, had whiskeys as old as 20 years in it. This is as per Martin. So and I believe that. So a definite recipe change. I'm guessing the accountants went to them and said, guys, you're selling 30-year-old whiskey at the price of 18-year-old, and you have to stop that practice. And I can understand that. But I think that has ultimately affected the quality of the spirit going forward, because this, for example, this edition of the Highland Park 18, the older version, is absolutely flawless. I love it to bits. whereas this one took me a long time getting used to, and I'm saying like at least a year of going back to it repeatedly. So yeah, very typical understated sherry nose. When I say understated, I don't mean too subtle, but it's not a sherry bomb, if you like. Cinnamon, black pepper, dry spices. Not as sweet as the 18, older 18, if I remember correctly. It has a decent nose. I remember being overawed by the old 18-year-old. This one doesn't really do that for me. Hints of citrus now. A lot more chocolate, and there's like this hint of earthiness as well. This sort of limestone mineral earthiness that I've started to find in newer Highland Parks, and this very distinctive sort of varnish linseed oil sort of flavor profile, which I'm not averse to, and I can get behind, but it's a fine line, and it can get bad. But I think they do okay. Decent nose, nothing too bad about it. Thin mouthfeel. Medium bodied, slightly less than medium. I would have preferred it to be fuller, more luscious, more velvety, but it's not. Drying spices at the end. Again, those cinnamon, nutmeg, and dry spices come towards the end. Mid palate, it's quite savory. I would have preferred it to be slightly sweeter. It's bottled at 46%, so I don't know if I want to add water to it, but just a touch, I guess. It's a decent dram. I don't think it has the complexity of its predecessors. I remember I had this one moment when I was drinking this older version, and there was this puff of smoke in my mouth when I was holding it on my palate, and layer upon layer of flavor profile just kept cascading through. And that's when I realized what whiskey is all about, and the complexity and the layers of the whiskey. I don't find the same complexity in this particular dram. I think it's a shadow of its former self. Still a decent whiskey. I don't mind it at all. I think it's quite okay. But it doesn't hold a candle to the older stock. That's for sure. Martin said this is more of an honest whiskey, given that it has whiskey that's very close to its age, that's mentioned on the bottle. And to that I replied, in that case, then I would 100% prefer a dishonest whiskey then, if that's the yardstick. So, when you pay £100 for a bottle of whiskey, and it's 18-year-old Highland Park, and it's a legendary whiskey, people like me expect a lot, and maybe unfairly so, but you're the ones who set a standard, not me. So when it doesn't deliver according to the same standards, then yeah, I guess you're going to be disappointed. Yeah, really mellowed down with the water. Lost all the spices, lost the sweetness. I wouldn't add water to it. I just wanted to see what happens. So, yeah, I mean, decent. Not amazing, which I hoped it would be. Not as bad as I initially thought it was when I had it. I mean, I'll be honest, I literally poured the dram back in the bottle. I hated it that much. But then as I kept drinking it slowly and a bit more, it opened up and it sort of cultivated itself into this particular final form, which is a perfectly acceptable, drinkable whiskey. Do I want more from it? Yes, of course. Of course. You owe it to me. But in this day of, absolute swill that sits on some of the shelves, masquerading as whiskey, I'm quite happy with this particular tipple, even if it doesn't blow me away. What are you gonna do? So yeah, that's it from me. My name is the Malt Activist. Please like, please subscribe, and definitely share this video with other whiskey enthusiasts and let them know this is what I'm doing.